We know what the schedule is for the Husker games. And here we go, 1:00. Midland versus UNL All-Stars women's flag football 7-on-7.
Whoa. Huge. Now, we'll say this. At least the man backs up his word, because Rhule's putting this together, and he said that he wants to see these flag sports for women like grow and stuff.
Sure.
So this is one way to do it. I like it. I'll give him props there.
And then at 2:00, it's the Big Red Kickoff featuring specialist competitions.
Ooh.
But they won't have a punter.
Not the punter that they want.
At least not the punter that they originally wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Then there will be the first quarter of the scrimmage. Then there will be a strongest man competition. I don't know how this is going to work. Is this just simple like bench pressing? Is it rock climbing?
It better not be rock climbing.
Keep rock climbing.
We'll have to wait and
else.
see. Maybe it's a tug of war. I'm not
Winner
sure.
gets a vat of Mountain Dew.
That'll
Code
be
red.
in between the quarters of the scrimmage, then the second quarter of the scrimmage, then the quarterback shootout.
I don't want to see any of my quarterbacks get shot.
I don't either. Then it's halftime, featuring the John Cook roping roundup.
Now, how is this going to work? You
The
can't
John
have
Cook roping roundup.
you can't have live animals at Memorial Stadium.
This sounds
This is
this sounds a
wild.
little bit like Uncle Baby's Bible Punk.
I can't wait. Nate Rohr's
John
going
Cook
to have
roping roundup.
Nate Rohr's going to have a field day as the PA out there, isn't he? And now we've got John Cook, the rope and roundup.
That's
Coming
true. Then after the John Cook roping roundup, it's the third quarter of the scrimmage.
The JCRRU, as the kids are saying.
Yep. The Husker Hands Agility and Skills Showdown.
I'm sure that won't make anyone look bad, and no one will have any takes about receivers that don't catch the ball. That will go over well.
Yeah.
Come on, John. Everyone always catches the ball in a skills drill.
Then it's Media Challenge. What is Media Challenge?
You have to answer questions from a panel of experts. Sam McEwen, Mitch Sherman, and who's the other one? Brian Christopherson. We'll throw those guys in.
Yeah.
You have to
easy.
answer questions without getting yourself in trouble and without giving a headline to the three main beat writers of Nebraska football.
And then it's up to the rest
Real
of the media
minefield.
to spin it in such a way where I didn't mean to say it that way.
Exactly.
Really did. Then it's the fourth quarter of the scrimmage, followed by the fastest man, and then a wing eating contest.
Boneless or traditional?
They're picking this over the demo derby?
Yes, they've picked this over the demo derby.
They better do traditional wings. I'm just saying.
Well, it's not a contest if you're just eating chicken poppers.
That's true.
It could still be a wing eating contest, though.
They're not wings.
I agree.
Now, to bring this to a more serious tone, has Matt Rhule stumbled onto something here?
What way?
If you missed it last week, Matt Rhule announced that he is going to allow those people who are at the tail end of the roster to play a scrimmage. He said these guys have given us their all. They've done the mat drills. They've worked for us. They're in an unfair position. We've got to cut a bunch of guys. They deserve a chance to put something on tape. So it will be those players, but you'll see a mix of maybe some second teamers, certainly some third and fourth teamers. It's basically the back 60 or 70 players on the roster, right? Because he said,
I don't know if the number's that big.
Well, if there's 130 guys on the team.
Good
and,
point.
And he
yes.
says, what is it? I think the number he quoted was like we have a 53-man roster and then we have another 55-man roster. So if you just do the simple math, let's just make it 60.
Yeah.
That would leave 70 left for the scrimmage.
Right.
But there is the possibility, and Matt Rhule alluded to this, that in future years, when we have the 105 limit, the 105 limit only takes effect when the season starts. But that maybe in future years, you could invite more people into the program, have 120, 125, 130 guys invited for spring ball, and essentially have this tryout bowl concept every year where, your front team, your first team guys, maybe your main rotational guys aren't going to play. But the guys who are the third team, the fourth team, and anyone beyond that will play. I'm just calling it the tryout bowl because that's the first thing that came to my mind. But that's what it becomes. And this now becomes the new spring game.
Yeah. I feel like this is maybe, like you said, stumbled into it is probably the right way to do it.
Right. Now,
but
he says he's doing this now because he wants to give these kids a chance to put stuff on tape for their next team, whoever that team might be.
But there's nothing to say that John Smith from Mullen, who goes to UNL as a freshman, once the season wraps up, he goes, you know what? I think I'm a pretty good football player myself. I'd love to get a team-issued backpack. I'll go join the team. Right. And in the spring, then he gets to wear the scarlet N on the side of the helmet, and he gets to be in this practice because, like you said, there's no rule that says that he can't. As long as the team has enough team-issued equipment to put him out there for a tackle football scrimmage, everyone can go out and participate. I think it's actually a great way to invite talent in and keep competition high as well.
I mean, I'd be surprised if once Nebraska hits the 105, that's going to be it. Because you're going to have players coming and going. And certainly there's going to be those where, and maybe it won't be 120 guys. Maybe it won't be 130 guys. But it'll certainly be more than 105. Where you can use the spring not only as an opportunity as the team to get better and to, work in whatever new systems that you might be having because you might have a new coach coming in or you've got new players coming in all the time. But you're not just going to keep 105 guys, I would anticipate all the time.
Yep. You'd be faulted for doing it. You're just inviting injury, and you're just inviting to be at 104, 103, 102.
Exactly.
Like, you'd always be in a surplus. Yeah.
Exactly. So, in a lot of ways, it's similar to NFL preseason.
Yeah.
NFL teams bring in 80, 90 guys at the beginning of camp, and then, of course, it gets all whittled down in the roster cuts before the season starts. Same thing will happen here. It may not be to the same percentage where you're almost doubling the 53-man roster, but you bring in a few extra guys, and maybe this becomes the new thing in the spring. I'm not saying it's going to be more attractive than what the spring game used to be, but I'm genuinely curious to see how this scrimmage goes on Saturday, because you'll have guys out there, if they're taking it as earnestly as Matt Rhule is describing it, as, hey, this is your chance. We're putting the ball down on the field. We're letting you play. You're going to get some tape. You can take it to your next team.
Yep.
If these people are taking it in that way, there's going to be effort out there. There's not going to be anything half-assed out there.
And I think that this is a great opportunity, too, for Rhule to implement his ability of what he had said from the beginning, that you want to be a developmental program. You want to do all this stuff. The long shots, we will see 3 out of 4 years in this type of format if it continues, right? The guys that they were like, we know he's a great athlete. We got to make him a football player. Those guys are player number 89 and player number 95 and player 104. I think this is also a really good opportunity, too, for Nebraska being the program that it is, in the region in which it is, surrounded by smaller schools, specifically in Division II. I think that they're going to take a lot of flyers on guys to transfer up and be like, listen, you balled out at Central Oklahoma. You were a great player at Northwest Missouri State. Oh, you were fantastic at Northwestern College. These guys can come in, be able to participate in spring practices, compete for not a starting job, but compete for a job in which they were like, we weren't going to get these views or these eyes anywhere else if I stayed in Edmond, Oklahoma. And now they're able to come back here, compete, and whatever happens, happens. And if you don't get that Division I offer because your tape wasn't good enough, because you weren't good enough to land at Nebraska, you then get to transfer back, and you were likely welcome back home because you're still probably one of the better players in whatever roster.
So you're suggesting it could be something where there might be guys who see themselves going up. Now, I guess the disadvantage there would be if you're the original program. Let's say you're the kid coming from Northwest Missouri State. You're like, well, wait a minute, you're leaving, and then you're going to go up there, and then we're going to bring you back?
Listen, I know what you're saying. Program mentality, all that sort of stuff. But at this point, we're in a new world of college football. At what point would the program like Northwest Missouri State, who's had a lot of success and whatnot, they're a Division II school, they would have to understand that kid's just trying to get as far in his football career as he can go. We should welcome him back because if he wants to come back, he helps our team either way. So he's helping himself out. And if he comes back to us, great. We're still good for it too. You can build yourself as a feeder program, which I know no one wants to be. But if you give these kids a chance to come in for 6 months, practice, be a part of the program, do all this sort of stuff, you can actually build yourself for these long shot opportunities. I mean, you mentioned like the Hard Knocks and the different stuff. The best stories in those are the kids that go as far as they can and get cut on the last day. That's what this is building. It's building storylines for someone to say, hey, I watched so-and-so from Burwell rush for 200 yards in the 4 quarters of a spring game that didn't count. And now I get to hope that he makes the 105-man roster. And when he gets cut on August 28th, I'm going to be devastated. But it would definitely, it builds more interest and intrigue in your program. Give them a reason to not want your player on
now,
there.
the thing that complicates a little bit of this is, and it's easy to lose sight of this, they're still going to school.
Yes.
So
true. Yeah, you're right.
So
you're
if the sophomore running back who fancies himself a Division I player from Northwest Missouri State transfers up to Lincoln for a semester and tries out in the spring, he does have to turn back around and transfer back to wherever. But it doesn't seem like transferring from one school to the other based on academics has been a big problem these days.
No.
I mean, there were over 10,000 football players in the transfer portal in just this period.
Yeah. I just think, and maybe that's a bit of a long shot in the way I explained it, but I think it gives coaches more opportunity to take flyers on guys like that.
Right.
Because what do you lose if you're Rhule? You say, okay, good. We got a guy that caught 1,200 yards of receiving yards from wherever in the MIAA, and he gets to come up here, compete with our guys. Maybe we learn a thing or two. We get to see what talent he is. If he's not good enough for us, he doesn't make the team. Your hands are washed clean of it because that's the process. You don't lose anything from it.
And certainly there's the possibility maybe you could partner with a junior college program, and because I do think one thing that's going to happen, if it doesn't happen next year, it's going to happen in 2 years, is the ability to scrimmage others' teams.
Yes.
What Colorado and Syracuse were trying to do, I think that's a distinct possibility.
Mm-hmm.
But who's to say maybe a program that fancies itself a developmental program like a Nebraska will partner with Iowa West, partner with some junior college, bring them in, and it becomes, you're working together, but you're also giving a chance to play a spring game. And who knows, maybe those guys that you really like, you watched them through 15 practices, you watch them in the spring game, and all of a sudden it's like, that guy could be one of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't have the issue of transferring back and forth from one school to the other because the kids are still going to school at Iowa Western. They're just coming to Lincoln for spring practice.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the whole practice. It doesn't have to be all 14, 15 practices. They could agree to do maybe 6 of them and then do the scrimmage at the end. And that could be one way where all of a sudden that's an opportunity for those guys to maybe move up. And if it doesn't work out, well, then they stay at Iowa Western for another year.
Yep.
Or because of the tape they put out there, maybe they're transferring in the summer to another 4-year school.
Yeah, I think it would be great to see a team like Nebraska practice against another program. I'd actually invite that more. And one of the last times that I was on, I said that to Josh too, that intrigues me more about being able to regionalize that as much as you can, because I had even pitched the idea of Nebraska every year should just go play an old Big 12 rival. They should go down to Manhattan, Kansas. They shouldn't be hosting it in Lincoln. Just get 75% of the ticket hosted in K-State and just go down there and dominate the day, fill the stadium with red, and have a bunch of both of your fan bases be able to watch you guys participate and practice against each other. You get great reps against it. It doesn't have to be televised. It's only a live event, all that good stuff. I think it'd be great.
402-951-1620. Here's Steve, who is not there.
Bye, Steve.
I mean, there's obviously there's a lot to do. You probably, and I know the portal's going to get moved around. The portal window has to get moved around.
So which window do you want to see? Would you rather keep the spring or do you want the fall?
I don't have a problem with 2 different portal windows. I think the portal window should also kind of match the semesters. You have one in December when the first semester's over. And I know not every school has semesters, some have quarters. But then you do the other one in May or June, and you work it out that way. Now, I know that there's the issue of the playoff teams. So maybe it's just one portal window.
And
maybe it's just one big portal window, and it's in the late spring, early summer, let's say after May, after graduation.
Yeah. But then, John, what about when I get cut from the roster and I don't have a place to go? you open that up when you're September 1st and you're not on a college football program? Are you allowed just to be a free agent from there?
I guess.
Do you get to go? I mean, then that's the question, because when you do that one portal, I agree with you. I think that there should be one portal in the spring, and it goes until June 1, May 1 to June 1. You got this 30-day window to be able to go somewhere.
Right.
But then if you're cut, I think it should be free game, that you get to say, listen, I'm good to go wherever I need to go, wherever my academics can let me go. But there's no way. I mean, obviously, they've figured it out for years that colleges allow you to be able to get in and get your academics all straightened out just so you can play a sport. But nonetheless, should you be allowed, if you don't make a team? If Tennessee cuts a guy at their 106 spot and South Alabama wants that same player because he's a better player than what we have, how does that work? Do they have to keep a roster spot open and invite this guy down? Or then does the transaction then go back another step? And how does that continue?
I really don't know.
Fervor? It keeps rolling on.
And that's the issue, is you don't have a whole lot of structure here, right? I mean, we're going to be instituting roster limits similar to what we have in all professional sports, but the ability for players to just leave willy-nilly and sign wherever they want to go, that's not something that exists in pro sports.
Yeah.
And so the management of all of this is extremely difficult, and it's constantly fluid.
I think that there is something to that. Rhule had said, either this press conference we were talking about where he had announced everything, or the one before it, but he said it kind of in passing, and I don't think it really got brought up as much as it should, is that there are guys on the roster right now that if they get told they're not on the team, they're done playing football. They're going to stay at UNL. They're just going to be Huskers, and they're like, my time was good. I came here to do that. Didn't make it on the team. I'm fine with that. And I think that that's a little bit underrated, because that's the uniqueness of Nebraska in this circumstance comparative to a lot of other places. There are more people on Nebraska's roster across the entirety of college football that are probably on that roster just because they grew up in the state and because they were like, I've been given a chance to wear the N and I'm going to try to go out and do it. Not a lot of other kids are going to be in their hometown state and just say, I'm good to just stay in school after being cut from the team. I think everyone else is going to be looking for other opportunities.
I do wonder if some of that is dying a little bit. I'm not saying you're wrong, but because there's always been through that walk-on program, but I do wonder once this all kicks in, that you're not going to have, because you won't have really a walk-on program anymore. There won't be that element of, hey, I want to be Rudy. I want to go out there and do this, because now it's starting to look a lot more like a professional organization,
right? Where,
the Vince Papali's, the guy from, what was the name of the movie?
Mark Wahlberg, Invincible.
Yeah. Those are so rare, so rare. You see a lot more. You used to see a lot more of it in college sports. Now, because of the 105 limit, and there's really not really walk-ons anymore, you wonder if those types of stories are just going to evaporate.
Yeah, and I mean,
that dream will evaporate.
Why I always have been so a big proponent of, they have to get this practice team figured out, because I think it's the most crucial part that it's completely forgotten on the roster limits and everything.
Sure.
If you can get a 30-man roster and you have 135 people on your program, these 30 guys are designated only as practice. They can be elevated and brought up. I think it's a completely unfair advantage for some teams that don't get injury riddled and get to the college football playoff, and they stick to 102 men on their roster all the way through. And Rhule said it 100 times over, but if you're going to win a national championship, you're going to compete in the college football playoff, you have to have a roster built to survive 15 games of a season in college football. Oh, there's so many injuries that happen. I mean, Nebraska's quarterback...
You don't get through seasons without injuries.
Nebraska's starting quarterback played all 12 games for the first time in God knows how long.
A long time.
A very long time. And he almost didn't do it because he was out for one game. If you don't have the ability to infuse from your own program in the middle of a season talent that is already placed into your program, you're at a significant disadvantage.
I would love to see a walk-on practice roster.
I think so too. Because there's no way that the NCAA could argue that that is such a talent discrepancy between Ohio State and the lowest group of 5 program, that these 30 kids are going to make the difference.
You regulate it to where, hey, these guys are walk-ons.
Yeah.
Where they're not getting anything.
They're practice kids.
They're practice kids. That's what they do.
You can put the flyer on campus. You could do like what the women's basketball teams do and just say, hey, we need 15 kids to come in and run drills. That's what we need.
But as far as we know, nothing like that's going to happen. Yeah. But it certainly would make a whole lot of sense. And it would make an idea like this where maybe the spring scrimmage becomes like a tryout bowl, maybe more likely.
Yeah.
But
and I still think you're going to get some people that are going to be in love, whether they're in the media booth or whether they're in the stadium. They're going to be watching, and they're going to fall in love with someone who breaks off a big run or gets an interception. And make no bones about it, the big plays and the fans are going to fall in love with the specialists and the skill players. I think the real film will be the offensive and defensive linemen.
yes,
Those are the guys that Rhule, I think, is really working towards, that he's trying to give those extra opportunities.
I would agree. It's almost, I can't believe I'm saying this. I can't believe I'm going to say this.
Say it.
I almost wish that this were on television so I could see it.
Oh.
Because there's not even a radio broadcast, is there? I don't think that there is. I haven't seen anything.
I don't think so, but because, and you might say, well, why don't you just go? I can't. We have baseball this weekend.
Right.
Baseball.
So I couldn't go even if I wanted to. But it is kind of, because I'm very curious to see how this plays out.
Mm-hmm.
Because these guys may be playing for another position at another school somewhere else down the line.
And then how is it going to be set up too? Like, are you going, like, are we watching? You keep calling it the trial bowl, but are there going to be situations where it's two kids that have been told Friday night, you guys aren't on the team.
Right.
This is for you to get filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Both of you are going against each other, guard against nose tackle. Good luck. This is both of you to get some film.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And Matt Rhule's going to have one more press availability. It'll be tomorrow, and I'm sure a lot of things have been talked about in the last, what's it been, 72-ish hours? Yep. More than that.
Oh, by the way, the Husker games are on the Husker Radio Network.
Okay, but the idea of how this is all going to work out, I guarantee you there are still some things trying to be ironed out right now.
Well, yeah, when he say that he was like, yeah, just me and Troy kind of talked about it.
We're the only ones.
They don't even have concession stands to figure out.
They don't.
Oh no, how is anyone going to have the house pizza?
Or the beer?
Well, I thought they were having food trucks and
that's right. I forgot about the
food
food trucks.
I think they were doing that part.
I don't like the format of this. I like the idea better of them just kind of doing the game, like treating it like a music festival where the game is happening over here, but then over here is the goat roping or whatever. And then over here
like a county fair. You just wanted to be a county fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw it as more of like a festival, not this.
Well, everyone is going to be so locked in on the football for the first quarter, and then they're going to realize that they've never seen or heard of these players before, and they're going to tune out of the football, and then they're going to get on their phones and see all the people that they follow talking about how great this one X player played and whatnot, and this guy's a standout performer and all that sort of stuff.
See, the problem is, though, with that is you don't get the total visual because, and this is something we can talk about with Mitch Sherman here in a little while, I wonder how much of this is also motivated by the fact of they don't want to have the same picture that we got from Alabama last week.
Yeah.
Where the crowd was down dramatically from one season to the next.
Mm-hmm.
If you do the festival type format like you're talking about, people are just going to be wandering around everywhere. And
well, then don't host it in Memorial Stadium.
Yeah.
You can't put it in there.
No.
But then if you want fans, you want that ticket.
They want the fans.
Got to put it in Memorial Stadium.
They want the fans.